Greetings and welcome to the second episode of this DOOMcumentary series, an attempt to chronicle the ups and downs and in-betweens of the world's greatest villain. The previous two episodes established a lot of pivotal lore about Doom's character, from his foundational origins to his first partnerships with Prince Namor. This video intends to look at a smaller moment in one of Doom's first appearances, one where he and Reed Richards swap bodies. The cover of issue 10 does a great job of setting up the whole story. We can see the four battling Doom in the background, but the foreground has a sinister, scheming Reed clutching his fist. So, playing with the meta, we also have Kirby and Jack Kirby and Stan Lee addressing the audience, highlighting a particularly goofy trait of this issue to mess with the meta nature of its status as a comic book. This issue was published on October 9th, 1962, with a cover date of January 1963. This issue can be found in a text called The Epic Collection Volume 1, Fantastic Four, The World's Greatest Comic Magazine, an omnibus that was released digitally in September of 2021. It is a 456-page document that collects Fantastic Four number 1 through 18. As this is a lore video with some firsts thrown in, I won't dig into a tremendous amount with the plot other than to say how, in this issue, Dr. Doom has returned from his previously debacle-ridden adventure aboard his rocket to literally trap Reed Richards by, and I'm not joking, invading the offices of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Dr. Doom forces them to call Reed Richards on a telephone and summon him to their offices so he can proceed to knock him out with the patented Doom knockout gas. So, lore piece number 6. Doom's Face version 2. Now, I was curious about whether to call this a new entry in the Lore of Doom notes or not, but I decided to address it as kind of an update to a previous entry. Back in the video for episode 1, part 1, it was established that Dr. Doom's face was disfigured, but we never got any confirmation of what Doom looks like under the mask. Here, having shown his face to Kirby and Lee, both men are repulsed. It is also established how Doom must remove his mask from time to time, else I feel it will strangle me. So, as Reed enters this trap that Dr. Doom has set, we get a fun first. So this is the first appearance of Dr. Doom's sleeping gas, a weapon he will use often in the golden age of the Fantastic Four. Then, in the next panel, we have Doom cite his powers as being mystic science, a phrase that I find particularly awesome. Now, this is kind of a wild first because we see that Doom has the ability to teleport himself through space with his knowledge of forbidden magic. He specifically calls this his mental teleporter. So, we are then shown through Doom's narrative that he survived his previous exile in space by having been rescued through a rather comical race of aliens called the Ovoids. Boy, it really was the 60s. While they don't pertain lore-wise to Doom directly, I think it is worth citing the fact that Doom knows their arts, which leads to Doom lore number 14. Doom has access to the body-swapping power of the Ovoids. Doom basically deceives these goofy-looking aliens into teaching him how it is that they maintain their immortality. They swap bodies with empty clone vessels. Doom learns their method, and then having returned to Earth, he is going to test it on Reed Richards. As Doom monologues to Reed, we get this comment about how he feels about his mask. Now remember, we just had Kirby and Lee address the fact that Doom is disfigured. Here Doom remarks, quote, "For more years than I care to remember, this mask of mine has been a prison, hiding a face too gruesome for human eyes to see. But now I shall gain my freedom." So this is kind of I guess you could say it's an update to Doom lore number 6, Doom's Face. We'll call this version 3. So we are now told that Doom despises his face in particular and wants to particularly be freed from the face he has beneath the mask. So if we kind of follow this in order, we know that his face was disfigured. We know he does not like it. It is repulsive to others. That's version 2. And in version 3, he does not want his face. Then, with the Ovoid's technique, Doom is going to swap bodies with Reed Richards, which leads to Doom Lore 15. Doom and Reed have swapped bodies. Now, this piece of lore will, over time, become very fascinating as the psychology of these two men gets explored further. Right now, per their publication history, Reed and Doom are very different characters from each other in that they're blatantly good and blatantly evil. But this first phase of lore establishes that, at least physically, Reed has been Doom and Doom has been Reed. Chris Claremont is actually going to dig further into this kind of idea, further into Reed and Doom's futures. But I just want to touch on the fact that this lore exists. It has come up very early in the comics, so I wanted to get that out of the way. With his foe trapped in his old body, Doom then impersonates Reed and tricks the Fantastic Four into, well, mopping the floor with his old body with Reed stuck inside of it, and then locks him up in an underground jar. So, the next part of the plot involves Doom showing off the first appearance of the Reducing Ray, a piece of tech he sells as being able to increase the Four's powers, the Fantastic Four, increasing their powers while shrinking them. And then when he returns them to normal size again, their powers are supposedly going to be able to increase. This is obviously a trap. He isn't just intending to shrink them down into nothingness. So Reed as Doom manages to escape, causing the other members of the Fantastic Four to eventually have to face him. And then eventually what's going to wind up happening is during this kind of scuffle, they're going to have to acknowledge that this person really is Reed Richards. It's not actually Dr. Doom. During Reed's act of exposing Doom with the help of Johnny Storm, the mental technique that swapped the two men is broken. Now, as a really brief little side note, I want to address that you get this image as their bodies are kind of resetting themselves back to normal. I just want to point out, Doom's face in this mental projection of himself does not appear disfigured. Doom, now back in his old body, doesn't waste a beat as he tries to take a pop shot at Reed Richards with the first named appearance of, and I actually had to check this like 3 times as I typed it out because I cannot believe this exists as a name, Doom's sub-miniature transistor-powered atomic blast gun. It's the coolest name for a gun of all time. Doom's stray shot hits the control panel of the reducing ray, and yes, it backfires onto Doom, reducing him in size until he shrinks down to nothing. His trend of things exploding in his face because of his own actions continues. That wraps it up for this episode. Episode 3 is going to cover the follow-up to this issue, one where we actually get the first non-Fantastic Four hero to engage with Dr. Doom. So, in this issue, we have seen the first use of Doom's sleeping gas, the first use of Doom's ability to self-teleport, the use of Ovoid powers by Dr. Doom, the first time Reed and Doom have swapped bodies, it will not be the last, the first introduction of the reducing ray, the first named use of the sub-miniature transistor-powered atomic blast gun. All right, well, that's it. Have a good day, everybody.